Now, since I tinned both sides, all I have to do is heat it up, let the solder melt into each other, and it's a done deal. I'm going to show you here a close-up of what exactly I did, if the camera decides to focus. There we go. Get the idea? Now I'm going to take some electrical tape and shield some of the wire before I put the heat shrink tubing over it. There we go. This is good to do just in case the heat shrink tubing gets worn down a little bit. You don't want any bare wires exposed. So now I'm going to pull that heat shrink tubing up over the connector. And so far, so good. Now, the way to melt heat shrink tubing properly is with a hot air gun. I've used a lighter my whole life. It's just the way I do it. Some people might criticize it as not making an even heat connection. It's going to be a little lumpy, but it does the job fast. It doesn't smell that great. Try not to inhale those fumes. I think I have my dad to blame for showing me how to do it with a lighter. We never used a heat gun in my house for heat shrink tubing, but that would probably be the best way to do it. You'll get a more even bond. It'll melt evenly into the wire. And as you'll see what happened, it shrunk. And it shrunk around the wire, and it's forming a really hard plasticky type of bond now. Now, I like to put this thick one over just to cover the edge of the adapter plug, because if I didn't, you would start to see some bare wires showing as the more the power adapter got used. And this is a little out of the frame. Sorry about that, guys. You'll see the finished product, though. Sometimes I get too into what I'm doing and I forget that it's on the camera. Again, if you can help it and you want to use a heat gun, go for it. And you just want to make sure everything's melted evenly. It's not going to be the prettiest thing in the world when this is done, but it'll be solid. It'll work, and most of the time that's what the customer wants. I got a little fan there I used to cool it down quickly. And we're going to hit it one more blast here, I think. Get it all melted evenly. Here's another trick. You could use the barrel of your soldering iron. I think my little lighter actually ran out of fluid. You could use the barrel of your soldering iron and just kind of paint the heat shrink tubing as it melts. Try to be as even as you can. Don't let it sit there for too long of a time on a specific piece. This is another thing I might be getting criticized about, but hey, it works. I do what works. You know, Eddie Van Halen never took a guitar lesson, and he's one of the best guitar players in the world, so Sometimes unorthodox techniques work all right. And again, we're going to cool that. Oops. It's not the best fan in the world. I can't tell you the number of times that blade actually popped off like that. Okay, it's a little lumpy, but it's not too bad. And that is a solid connection. You know, as long as you sand or scuff up the leads before you solder them and make sure it's making a strong solder connection, you're going to be okay. You're not going to get returns on these. You also might be thinking, this is taking a long time. Is it really worth it to do this? Well, it depends. It's up to you to decide that. Now, I've got the voltmeter on. I'm touching the black to the outside, positive the inside. We should be getting 19 volts out of this. And there we go. 19 volts. Remember, do not touch those two leads together as they're touching the power adapter. You don't want to create a short circuit. So we're good to go. There's the finished product. Not too shabby. It has character. I'm just going to make sure no bare wires are being exposed. Do a little couple finishing touches here. And now it's time for the moment of truth. Always make sure before you actually test these in the computer that you test them with your voltmeter first.